What's up guys, Lanh here from Android Authority, and HTC's newest smartphone is the phone that you can squeeze. But should you squeeze the money out of your wallet to buy one? Let's find out with the HTC U11. Did you really just have me say that? So I've had my hands on the HTC U11 ever since it got announced in Taipei, and I started out using a Taiwanese version of the U11 and then later switched to a US model running on Sprint. So I've had quite a bit of time using the U11 as my main device. And with the U Ultra ultimately turning out to be a flop, HTC really needed to deliver, and I can wholeheartedly say that it certainly does do that in pretty much every aspect. In terms of overall specs, the U11 ticks all the right boxes. The phone comes with 64 gigabytes of internal storage, and you can add additional storage via micro SD. With the latest Snapdragon 835 and 4 gigabytes of RAM, the phone is just as fast and as fluid as you would expect. Touch response and scrolling is excellent, and it runs apps and high-end games with no issues at all. Multitasking is also nice and quick, but I do notice that it's quite aggressive with closing apps after only opening around 5 or 6. Not a big deal for me personally, but it is something worth noting. Build quality, of course, is nothing less than what you would expect from HTC. It's a solid slab of 2 pieces of glass with an aluminum frame sandwiched in between, rounded corners, and curved edges along both the front and rear panels for a very seamless and comfortable design. It's a formula that we've seen many times before, but what really makes the U11 stand out is the liquid glass surface on the rear panel. It's very unique and eye-catching, and the way some of the colors can shift and change depending on the angle and how the light hits it is a very cool effect. The only downside is that it gets mucked up by fingerprints pretty easily, and because of how reflective and mirror-like the finish is, it's a lot more noticeable over a more traditional piece of glass. The U11 features the same woofer and tweeter speaker combo that we first saw on last year's HTC 10, but this year it's been improved significantly. It's much louder with better clarity, and HTC is leveraging the entire phone as an acoustic chamber to make this happen. You can literally feel the audio resonate throughout the entire phone when holding it in your hand, and there's a huge difference when listening to the U11 and the HTC 10 side by side. For internal audio, the U11 doesn't have a headphone jack, but I think it's completely forgivable considering how good the audio sounds through the USB Type-C port. The Usonic earbuds are some of the best sounding pair of earbuds I've ever listened to. They're able to analyze and tune audio specifically for your ear structure, and they also feature active noise cancellation. There is a 3.5mm to USB Type-C adapter included with the U11 to let you plug in any headphones of your choice, but this will also give you much better audio quality because it has a DAC built inside of it and should allow you to drive higher impedance headphones. Another improvement that HTC has made on the U11 over previous HTC phones is the IP rating. The U11 is IP67 certified, which is a huge step up from the IP53 that's on the HTC 10 or the Pixel. This means the phone is completely dust tight and can survive being submerged in water. With so many high-end phones having either IP67 or IP68, this was definitely a smart move for HTC to make if they want the U11 to compete. Taking a look at the U11 from the front, you have the standard array of capacitive keys and home button that also doubles as a fingerprint sensor, and it works quite well at unlocking the phone with accuracy, reliability, and speed. Above that, of course, is the display, and instead of jumping on the bandwagon and doing a tall and narrow screen with super thin bezels like LG or Samsung, HTC has gone the more traditional route. It's a 5.5-inch Quad HD display with 16:9 aspect ratio, and is surrounded by pretty thick bezels. It's not not going to turn any heads like the G6 or S8, but the quality of the screen itself is fantastic. It's very sharp and crisp with excellent viewing angles, contrast, and vibrant colors. It's plenty bright, so outdoor visibility is also quite good, but I do wish that it got much dimmer. It feels a little too bright when using the phone at night or in the dark, but that's really a minor complaint for what is otherwise a great looking screen. Not a whole lot has changed with the software on the U11 when compared to the U Ultra or even last year's HTC 10. It's running on Android 7.1.1 with HTC Sense, and you have all the familiar features like blink feed, the vertical scrolling app drawer, and HTC's custom themes. Sense is still one of the cleanest takes on Android, but it is starting to feel like it needs a refresh, and the U11 could have been that perfect opportunity for HTC to do that. I do appreciate that the U11 doesn't come pre-installed with a whole lot of bloatware. Even on the Sprint version, there's only a couple of apps installed by the carrier, but obviously if you want the least amount of pre-installed apps, the unlocked version would be the way to go. The big standout feature is the new Edge Sense technology, which is basically HTC's shortcut for accessing different functions or apps on your phone. You can literally make it do anything. You can have it open up the camera, take a selfie, turn on the flash, launch Google Assistant, or open up any one of your favorite apps. Some companies like to add an additional button. HTC said, no. We're gonna make the phone squeezable. I know it sounds like a really weird thing to do, but it does work quite well, and it's actually pretty intuitive, and I would say it's probably the most intuitive gesture that we've seen since Motorola's wrist twist of the phone to launch the camera. AI assistants are a big part of smartphones right now, and aside from Google Assistant, you also have HTC's Sense Companion. This will give you suggestions based on your location or time of day and learn your usage habits over time so it can provide you with information that it thinks you would like to know. For example, it can randomly update you with the weather, provide restaurant recommendations when it's time for lunch or dinner, remind you to charge your phone, or give you traffic updates based on your commute, and all of these will show up in a card-style layout. If any of this sounds familiar, that's because Google already does a lot of this for you, so there's no real surprises here, but it does work fairly well if you choose to use it. The big difference is it doesn't have a voice component, so you'll still be relying on Google Assistant for any voice dictation. The U11 does a lot of things well, but none of that really matters if the phone can't last all day. Thankfully, battery life on the U11 is extremely good. I know the 3000 mAh battery may sound fairly average by today's standards, but it's never struggled to get me through a full day even with heavy use. I've never had to charge this phone in the middle of the day, but it does have Quick Charge 3.0 to make the charging process easy and quick. And I think it's very impressive that HTC has been able to extend this phone's battery life without resorting to shoving in the largest battery they can find. The last big piece of the puzzle is the camera, and there's a lot of expectations with this camera considering it currently holds the highest rating for a smartphone camera by DxOMark. The main camera on the back is an all-new 12 megapixel sensor that HTC is dubbing the Ultra Pixel 3, and it's optically stabilized with a bright f1.7 aperture. It's also leveraging a new feature called HDR Boost that will auto-process every photo as HDR to give you the clearest and most well-balanced photo possible. It's very similar to what Google has done with the Pixel. The front-facing camera no longer has optical image stabilization like the HTC 10 did, but in return you're getting a much higher resolution 16 megapixel camera for capturing sharper and better looking selfies, and it's also capable of capturing photos using the HDR Boost. The good news is the camera does live up to the hype. It takes impressively good looking photos, there's plenty of detail, and colors are more on the natural side and not overly vibrant like what you would get on a Galaxy S8. Low-light photos are still incredibly sharp and well detailed, noise levels are kept very well under control, and the noise that you do see is very fine and compact. It's not splotchy or filled with artifacts, so it doesn't make much of an impact to the overall quality of photos that are taken in low light. Although this is a completely new sensor, it has one issue in low light that the U Ultra also had. Highlights are very heavily overblown, and snapping photos of light sources such as street lamps or traffic lights cause a lot of streaking, lens flares, and floating light particles. Because it happened on the U Ultra and now the U11, I firmly believe that this is possibly being caused by the phone's reflective back. I have my doubts on whether this is something HTC can actually fix, but it's probably not an issue that very many people are going to be bothered by. The biggest hurdle for HTC is will they be able to get this phone to sell? It's only being sold directly by one US carrier, that carrier being Sprint, and unlocked it costs $650, which is certainly cheaper than the U Ultra and other competing flagships like the Galaxy S8, but it's still not exactly impulse buy territory. I'm not necessarily suggesting that the phone is overpriced, but most people still aren't comfortable with dropping that much money on a smartphone right on the spot, especially if they've never seen it before. HTC has also put themselves at a huge disadvantage by only being able to get this phone on one carrier, while phones like the G6 and the S8 are on all major US carriers. That means that most of the sales will probably be coming through online channels, and let's just hope that more consumers are comfortable with buying phones outside of carrier stores, because if you're looking for a new smartphone, the U11 is a phone that you definitely shouldn't overlook. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this review of the HTC U11. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. It's definitely not gonna hurt you, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell while you're at it so you don't miss out on future videos. And check us out on social media: Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Google+, all that good stuff will be linked down below. And check the website as well, androidauthority.com, because we are your source for all things Android.